Why did I get a letter from my late mother-in-law? I couldn't believe my eyes as I stared at the envelope in my mailbox. It was from her, even though we had just said our goodbyes at her funeral yesterday. She had always been so kind to me, like a friend despite our age gap. We used to go out and have fun together, and her sudden passing had hit me hard. I was still struggling to accept that she was gone. During my mourning, getting a letter from my mother-in-law was a big shock. As I read it quickly, I discovered something totally unexpected. She had arranged for it to be sent to me by the temple priest after she passed away. Inside, she told me about a hidden door in the family chest and how to find it. She stressed that I should open it alone. Realizing I had the house to myself, I rushed over and used the spare key to get in. Following her instructions, I found the secret compartment and managed to open it. Inside, I found something incredible. I'm Nancy, 35, working as a web designer from home. My husband Tom, 4 years older, and I tied the knot 5 years back. We were introduced by a friend, and our bond remains strong. Sadly, we haven't been able to have kids yet. It's been tough, but my mother-in-law, also named Nancy, has been a source of solace. She always reassures me, saying there's no rush and suggests fun outings like trying out the new waffle place near the station. Her warmth and encouragement have eased my worries about not having children. Though I still long for them, I've decided against aggressive fertility treatments and am letting things happen naturally. My husband Tom travels a lot for work, so my mother-in-law and I often hang out when he's away. Despite our age gap, we've become really close, almost like friends. She lives nearby with my brother-in-law's family, who have 3 kids. But while my mother-in-law gets along with them, my brother-in-law and his wife aren't so friendly towards us because we don't have kids. Nancy, still no kids. We've got 3 wonderful ones here. Not having kids is disrespectful. You should distance yourself from your mother-in-law. Amy, my brother-in-law's wife, often taunts, with Jason, my brother-in-law, joining in with mocking remarks about Tom and me. At first, my husband and I would argue back when my brother-in-law's family made those hurtful comments. But they never listened, so we started avoiding them instead. It's frustrating how they're so rude to us, but pretend to be nice around my mother-in-law. She has no idea what they're really like. We haven't told her because we don't want her to worry unnecessarily. Feeling worried, we rang the doorbell at my in-laws' house, but no one answered, so we used the spare key to get in. "Mom," my husband called out, but there was no reply. With a sinking feeling, we searched the house and found my mother-in-law collapsed in her bedroom. "Oh no," I gasped, rushing to her side while my husband called for an ambulance. My brother-in-law's family must have been out because no one else was home. The ambulance arrived quickly, but despite their efforts, my mother-in-law passed away at the hospital. It was a stroke. My husband and I were devastated by my mother-in-law's sudden passing. We cried endlessly, but there were practical matters to attend to, like arranging the funeral. We knew we couldn't dwell in sadness forever. The funeral was meant to be a family affair, with my brother-in-law taking the lead. Despite some reluctance from him, we all worked together to honor my mother-in-law's wishes. But throughout the preparations, there was a sense of unease with my brother-in-law. While he carried out his duties as the chief mourner, he seemed detached. After brief conversations with relatives, he would abruptly leave, leaving them offended. They would then glare at him as he departed. During the gathering after the funeral, my brother-in-law took the first seat and stayed put, ignoring my husband's attempts to engage him with the guests. He just sat there with his beer, and his wife did the same beside him. Meanwhile, my husband and I moved around, thanking everyone for coming and sharing memories of my mother-in-law. Seeing their parents lounging and drinking seemed to influence my brother-in-law's kids, who busied themselves with games, laughing and nudging each other. It felt more like a casual get-together than a mourning gathering. None of them seemed affected by my mother-in-law's passing, and the relatives noticed. They didn't bother talking to my brother-in-law's family and instead shared memories with my husband and me before saying goodbye. Despite the relatives' noticeable change in behavior, they carried on, ordering more beer, discussing inheritances, and even planning vacations during this solemn time. After everything my mother-in-law did for them, "It's just disrespectful," I muttered, feeling disdainful towards my brother-in-law's family. The next morning, my husband left early for some errands. As I went to check the mailbox for the newspaper, I found a letter addressed to me. Who could this be from? I wondered, surprised as I opened it and realized it was from my late mother-in-law. Why would she send me a letter? I pondered returning to the living room to read it. Inside, I discovered something unexpected. It seemed she had arranged for the temple priest to send it to me after her passing. The letter contained instructions on opening a chest, accessing a hidden compartment, and the contact details of the family lawyer. And then a note. Please open it alone. I carefully studied my mother-in-law's letter, admiring her strong handwriting despite her delicate frame. Taking a deep breath, I felt the weight of her words, reflecting her resilient spirit. Glancing at the clock, it read 9:30. The house should be empty now, I thought to myself as I prepared to leave. The kids would be at school, and my brother-in-law and his wife likely out on their planned outing, according to a social media post I saw earlier. Despite it being the day after our grandmother's funeral, they seemed eager for a day off using bereavement leave. If their post was accurate, the family home should be deserted. I knew I had to go now, or I might not have another chance. As I stepped into my parents-in-law's house using the spare key, a wave of sadness washed over me. The absence of my mother-in-law, always so warm and welcoming, felt heavy on my heart. Slowly, I made my way to her room. The chest, said to be her trousseau, looked old but well cared for. Following the letter's instructions, I opened it smoothly and found the hidden door at the back, just as described. Relief flooded me as I managed to open it safely. Inside, along with what the letter mentioned, I found another document. What could this be? I wondered, feeling my mother-in-law's love emanating from the papers. Tears threatened to spill, but I knew I had to leave quickly. I couldn't risk being caught there by someone returning home. After all, the letter had emphasized the importance of doing it alone. When I returned home with the documents, I reached out to the family lawyer mentioned in the letter to inform them of my mother-in-law's passing. Just as I was about to contact my husband and my brother-in-law's family to discuss gathering this weekend, an email from my sister-in-law arrived. It urged us to convene at my parents-in-law's house urgently for important news. What could she want to discuss? Despite feeling uneasy, declining seemed strange, so I accepted. That weekend, we nervously gathered at my parents-in-law's house. My brother-in-law and his wife wore smug smiles, and their children were conspicuously absent. As soon as we sat down, they presented a document, my mother-in-law's will. It bore her signature, leaving all assets to my brother-in-law and his wife. You see, we inherit everything, my brother-in-law gloated, his laughter harsh. While my husband looked stunned, I quietly excused myself and discreetly brought in the lawyer waiting outside. Who's this? My brother-in-law and his wife sounded puzzled as the lawyer entered. Even my husband, unaware of the lawyer's presence, looked surprised. This is the lawyer my mother-in-law trusted, I explained briefly. Gradually, confusion turned to anger on my brother-in-law and his wife's faces. A lawyer? Why bring them here? They demanded. It's part of my mother-in-law's instructions. She wanted the lawyer to help draft the estate division agreement smoothly, I replied. They protested loudly, insisting they didn't need legal assistance. My brother-in-law slammed the desk, gesturing to my mother-in-law's will. See, we have her will. We don't need a lawyer, he declared. The lawyer intervened calmly. Are you sure your mother wrote this entire document herself? My brother-in-law affirmed angrily, but the lawyer shook his head. This can't be recognized as a will. A holographic will must be entirely handwritten by the testator, he explained, pointing out inconsistencies in the document. The handwriting looked familiar, but the rest appeared to be printed, likely from a computer. The room fell silent as my brother-in-law reached for the will in front of him. But no matter what he did, the content remained unchanged, neatly printed in Gothic font. Huh? Suddenly, my husband pointed out something strange. Why is the back of the paper so clean? I examined it closely and noticed a discrepancy. The handwriting in the signature section was different from the rest. Could this be a forged will? My brother-in-law and his wife trembled at the lawyer's observation. We wouldn't do such a thing, they protested, but their tension was palpable. The lawyer warned, forgery of a will is a serious crime. Their faces drained of color as they stuttered through excuses. The lawyer delivered the final blow. Nancy has a notarized will, making yours invalid. My brother-in-law and his wife were shocked. What? We never heard of it, they exclaimed. But I remembered the letter from my mother-in-law mentioning a notarized will hidden behind the chest's secret door. We were just as surprised. In the letter my mother-in-law sent earlier, she disclosed the hiding spot to us. Along with practical details, she explained her reasons for making the notarized will and why she shared it with me. She had sensed her health declining and prepared the will, suspecting that my brother-in-law and his wife might try to interfere with it. While I had thought my mother-in-law was oblivious to my brother-in-law and his wife's true nature, it seemed she had a faint inkling of their greed. The notarized will stipulated that the assets would be split equally between my brother-in-law and my husband. What? She did this? My brother-in-law and his wife were stunned, their eyes wide. Then my brother-in-law's demeanor shifted abruptly, and he exclaimed, "Ah, right? As the eldest son, I'm supposed to be the beneficiary of Mom's life insurance, aren't I?" His eyes gleamed with intensity as he spoke. I replied in a chilly tone, "In addition to the notarized will, your mother also left me the life insurance certificate, with myself as the beneficiary." Inside the hidden compartment of the chest, alongside the notarized will, was the life insurance certificate. My brother-in-law and his wife balked at the documents in disbelief, their eyes fixed on them. "I never heard about this. I had no idea," the lawyer interjected. Changing a life insurance beneficiary doesn't always require notifying the previous one. Despite my brother-in-law's protests and table slamming, the lawyer intervened. Turning to me, my husband asked anxiously, "When did Mom entrust you with this?" "I didn't know." I reassured him with a smile. "It was all in the letter I received from her. She wanted to tell you too, but she was worried about raising suspicion with your brother and his wife if both of us were involved. So she entrusted it to me alone." "I understand. It makes sense, considering how close Mom and you were," my husband remarked. As we spoke, my sister-in-law burst in, hysterical. "I can't accept this. Why should you, who didn't even show your children to my mother-in-law, inherit her estate? This is ridiculous. I won't accept it." My brother-in-law chimed in, his face reddening with anger. "Exactly. You have no right to Mom's estate. We lived here just for her inheritance. Splitting it equally. Don't make me laugh. It's all ours." My sister-in-law continued to shout, adding to his selfish claims. "We have 3 children. As compensation for not showing my mother-in-law any grandchildren, you should give all of her inheritance to our children for their future. We have given her 3 grandchildren, so we deserve it more. The inheritance belongs to us." Despite my sister-in-law's aggressive outbursts, I remained composed. "Your arguments don't make sense. Let's try to calm down," I said calmly, but it only seemed to fuel her anger further. "Your calmness is so infuriating. Just give us the money already. You're worthless without children," she shouted, launching herself at me. My husband and the lawyer stepped in to stop her, but before they could, she landed a punch on my head. "Ouch!" I cried out in pain. "Stop it." My husband and the lawyer managed to restrain her, but she continued to struggle, demanding the inheritance. Her eyes were wild and her face contorted with rage. Meanwhile, my brother-in-law encouraged her, urging her to hit me more. Enraged, my husband called the police to intervene. When the police arrived, my husband and the lawyer briefed them on the situation. My brother-in-law and his wife were escorted away. We thanked the lawyer and decided to let him go for the day. What was meant to be a discussion about dividing the estate turned into chaos. We agreed to send a gift as an apology. My husband had been worried about my well-being since the incident, but he relaxed when I assured him that my headache had gone away. Reflecting on the tumultuous events, I sighed. It's been quite intense. Then my husband brought up something unexpected. "You know, Amy always seems to boast about her children and money," he said. It was true. My sister-in-law constantly flaunted her children and showed an intense fixation on money. During the previous argument about money, my sister-in-law's fixation on her children and money became evident. Her expression during the altercation was truly frightening. "You're right. It's a bit unsettling," my husband mused, falling into silence afterward. Sensing his unease, I asked, "Is something bothering you?" "Yeah, there's something on my mind. I'm thinking of suggesting it to my brother. I believe it might be wise to have DNA tests done for their 3 children," my husband revealed, surprising me. "DNA tests?" I echoed, taken aback. "Yeah, and I'm also considering proposing a background check on Amy. Something doesn't feel right. It's just a gut feeling," he explained. Though I initially thought it might be unnecessary, my husband's intuition had proven accurate before. "All right, if that's what you think, let's discuss it with your brother later." When my husband broached the topic with my brother-in-law, he reacted with ridicule and extensive yelling. "Just because you don't have kids yourselves, don't doubt ours," he shouted. However, before leaving, he demanded materials about DNA testing from my husband. It seemed my brother-in-law had his own thoughts on the matter. The shocking truth emerged from the DNA tests conducted between my brother-in-law and his children. It was revealed that 2 out of 3 of his children did not share his blood. I had my doubts about the youngest because their features didn't resemble either of us much. But I never expected this from the middle one. My husband muttered, stunned by the revelation. My brother-in-law delved into his wife's background, and the findings were damning. It appeared that my sister-in-law had been involved with multiple men even before marrying my brother-in-law. Furthermore, her recent affairs had been exposed to the wives of her lovers, who were now seeking compensation. As my sister-in-law spent more time at home than my brother-in-law, she carefully concealed any notices, such as registered letters. Upon examining the details, it became clear that the total amount of compensation demanded far exceeded my sister-in-law's earnings or savings. Ultimately, it seemed my sister-in-law was determined to claim my mother-in-law's inheritance for herself at any cost. As events unfolded, my brother-in-law and sister-in-law escalated into a violent altercation, hurling objects and exchanging blows until blood was drawn. Disturbed by the commotion, neighbors alerted the police, leading to their arrest on charges of assault, in addition to the ongoing investigation into the forged will. Further inquiry revealed a history of theft and harassment against wealthy individuals, compounding their legal troubles. Ultimately, both ended up incarcerated. Concerns arose about the future of their 3 children, for whom we were now the closest relatives since our mother-in-law's passing. Despite considering taking them in, we hesitated. The children had been deeply influenced by their parents' toxic behavior, referring to us disdainfully as childless incompetence. Even the eldest at 14 and the youngest at 7 demonstrated a shocking lack of respect or understanding of proper conduct. Despite their parents' predicament, their attitudes remained unchanged. Hearing our 14-year-old nephew dismiss us as childless idiots was disheartening beyond words. Exposed to such hostility, we found it impossible to nurture affection or optimism about their upbringing. In the end, we decided to reach out to my sister-in-law's parents and formally cut ties with the children. It seemed they understood our decision, as our nephew bitterly remarked, "I'd rather live in Grandma's old shack with a clueless, childless couple." It was clear this was the best course for everyone involved. We chose not to disclose the fact that the younger 2 children were not biologically related to my brother-in-law. Whether to reveal the truth or not, we left in the hands of my brother-in-law and his wife's relatives. My husband and I made the decision to relocate to a distant place, using the inheritance from my mother-in-law to start anew. Our new home was surrounded by lush greenery and nature, instantly making us feel at peace. There was a quaint waffle shop nearby, where we often reminisced about my mother-in-law, wishing she could have joined us. Shortly after the move, I discovered I was pregnant, a long-awaited blessing that filled us both with overwhelming joy. The positive pregnancy test brought tears to our eyes, and later, the doctor confirmed the news, leaving us elated. We couldn't help but imagine how thrilled my mother-in-law would have been if she were still with us. In addition to the pregnancy, the entrepreneurial venture I had been quietly planning was also progressing smoothly. My husband and I worked diligently, anticipating the arrival of our child and cherishing each day filled with happiness. My daughter, Erin, now a college student, has been living independently for about a year despite receiving a reasonable monthly allowance and supposedly dedicating herself to a part-time job. When Erin returned home, she looked worn out and thin. "Are you pushing yourself too hard? Are you getting enough to eat?" I asked with concern. "I'm managing with things like cereal," she replied, "but I crave more." Yet Erin fell silent, confirming my uneasy suspicions. She thanked me, saying, "Thanks for the $13 a month, Mom." I couldn't believe what I heard. $13? I've been transferring $1,300 every month. My name is Laura. People have always said I have poor judgment in men. My first boyfriend in college cheated on me within 3 months. Then I dated a younger guy who became a freeloader, likely because I was footing the bills. The man I married after 4 years of dating turned out to be both a spendthrift and a cheat. After divorcing him, I raised Erin as a single mom for 10 years. Erin, whom I once perceived as young and naive, has matured into a dependable daughter, taking the lead in household chores. Despite my insistence that she need not exert herself so much, she remained steadfast, asserting, "You're already doing so much for us, Mom. I worry you'll burn out if I don't help." Moreover, Erin never slacks in her studies. "I want to contribute like you, Mom. I don't want to be a burden," she expresses, diligently preparing for her college entrance exams since her high school days. Though she may exhibit traces of naivety, I wholeheartedly believe she's an exceptional daughter. After diligent studying, Erin received the long-awaited acceptance letter from a prestigious public university. Together, we eagerly searched the bulletin board until we spotted Erin's applicant number, and we clasped hands in joy. As the days swiftly passed before her college journey began, we decided to take a celebratory hot spring trip, relishing every moment of relaxation. While immersed in the soothing warmth up to my shoulders, I glimpsed my daughter, her cheeks rosy with contentment, and I found her endearing words, "Mom, this is so wonderful," deeply touching. In that serene moment, I silently vowed to protect her with all my heart, no matter what challenges lay ahead. As Erin embarked on her college journey, she left the nest with a blend of pride in her growth and a hint of loneliness. I bid her farewell, watching her set off on her new path. Since Erin began living independently, our nightly phone calls became a cherished ritual. With her knack for household chores and reliability beyond her years, I didn't harbor major concerns about her solo living arrangements. Yet the notion of a young woman navigating life alone stirred a lingering unease within me. I questioned if my worries were excessive, but Erin's cheerful conversations each evening brought me solace. Those end-of-day calls became my much-needed moments of relaxation. Erin would often share details about her college life, her classes, her new friends, her involvement in the music club, and the intriguing upperclassmen she encountered there. Hearing about her vibrant daily experiences filled me with joy. Near the semester's end, Erin's voice carried a hint of tension as she shared, "You know what?" To my delight, she revealed the happy news. "I've started dating someone." The lucky guy was Ian, the senior she met at the club. While I congratulated her with genuine enthusiasm, a twinge of concern lingered within me. As the daughter of someone often deemed unlucky in love, I couldn't shake the worry that perhaps my own romantic misfortunes had been inherited by her. Sensing my unease, Erin cautiously inquired, "Would you like to meet him someday?" I reassured her with a bright tone, "Absolutely." When summer vacation began, Erin returned home, accompanied by Ian. Upon meeting him, I discovered Ian to be a well-groomed and polite young man. "Pleasure to meet you, I'm Ian. I'm dating your daughter," he greeted me with a firm handshake as soon as I opened the door. His demeanor exuded responsibility, easing any lingering concerns I had. Ian sported no tattoos or piercings, yet carried himself with a refined air. The rolled-up sleeves of his shirt added a touch of classic charm, evoking memories of my own youthful attractions. A curious sense of nostalgia washed over me in his presence. We sat down for iced tea together, and I quickly noticed that Ian was not only responsible but also incredibly thoughtful. He graciously offered to carry the tray of iced tea I had prepared and promptly refilled my empty cup when it ran low. "Ian seems like a really decent guy," I whispered to Erin when he briefly left the table. Erin chuckled shyly. "Well, Mom, you were worried, weren't you?" "Of course, darling. It's only natural for a mother," I replied. Erin laughed. "But honestly, Mom, I'm doing just fine. I think I've got better luck in love than you." We both shared a hearty laugh at that, and I couldn't help but agree. You might be onto something there. As the second semester commenced, Erin, determined not to be a burden, took on multiple jobs to support herself. Despite my monthly financial support for emergencies, she seemed intent on saving every penny for the future. Trusted by her employers, Erin juggled school and worked tirelessly, leaving little time for her club activities. Concerned, I asked, "Are you sure you're managing? Don't hesitate to use the money I send, and do you need me to come help with chores?" Erin replied softly, "I'm okay," her voice tinged with wariness. Since Erin couldn't attend the club anymore, Ian began frequenting our home out of concern. "You have your own worries, don't you? I can handle things myself, really. I'm fine," Erin reassured him. "If you say so," Ian replied, though his worry lingered. One evening, returning from work, I was greeted by the aroma of a surprise hamburger Ian had prepared. It was delicious. Having Ian around makes things easier. Erin's cheerful tone betrayed her fondness for him. As time passed, Erin's calls grew less frequent due to her busy schedule. She'd update me sporadically, but it was evident she was juggling a lot. Despite my reassurances, I couldn't shake the worry. Ian made sure she ate well on his visits, but on other days, Aaron resorted to cereal for sustenance. Despite my financial support, it seemed she was struggling. Aaron wasn't one to squander money, so the situation puzzled me deeply. When I confided in my mother, she brushed off my concerns, remarking, "You're worrying excessively about your adult daughter. It's hard to let go." Perhaps she was right. Aaron would turn 19 soon. Though she still seemed like a child to me, the world saw her as an adult, especially with Ian by her side. Maybe I should just trust that she'll ask for help if she really needs it, I mused, attempting to ease my anxiety. Yet finding peace amid my worries proved challenging. Winter break arrived, and Aaron's return home revealed a noticeable change. She appeared thinner than before, her once slender frame now visibly diminished. Dark circles mirrored her tired eyes. When she explained she had been working late the previous night, coming straight home thereafter, concern flooded me. "Aaron, are you pushing yourself too hard lately? Are you eating properly?" I inquired, unable to hide my worry. "I'm eating properly, cereal and such," Aaron responded. Her sudden silence spoke volumes. Hastily she added, "But I've mastered the art of cereal." Her smile strained. It seemed forced, prompting a gnawing worry within me. Was she truly eating well? Despite my consistent financial support and her diligent work, a troubling sensation crept over me. Aaron's next words only heightened my unease. "Thanks for the $13 every month, Mom." "$13? I send you $1,300 every month," I replied, stunned by the revelation. A sense of foreboding gripped me. "Aaron, where do you keep your checkbook and debit card?" "It's in my desk drawer at home," Aaron replied. "I'm heading to your place now, Aaron. There's something I need to check," I announced suddenly. Aaron looked surprised by my abrupt declaration but nodded in agreement. As we rode the train to her apartment, conversation flowed between us. The first topic broached was the matter of her mistaken allowance. Aaron explained that she maintained a living expenses account for her part-time earnings and a savings account where I deposited her allowance. She had recently depleted her savings purchasing textbooks and other necessities for the new semester. When she checked her account balance, it was a mere $78. Despite my consistent financial support, she had never inquired about the exact amount. Assuming the $78 was the sum total of my contributions over 6 months, she calculated it to approximately $13 per month. "Is that about right?" I asked. "I thought so, but I thought you might be struggling too, Mom. Honestly, you're such a silly girl. How much do you think I earned?" "Don't underestimate me," Aaron retorted to my semi-joking remark. Her words seemed to ease the tension momentarily, but a shadow crossed her face once more. It dawned on me why Aaron hadn't accessed the money I sent. Someone must have gained access to her bank account, and the most suspicious candidate was Ian, who frequented her apartment. Aaron appeared to be in denial, and I found myself reluctant to entertain the idea that her seemingly kind boyfriend would be involved in theft. I nervously watched as the train approached the nearest station. Upon reaching Aaron's home, we hurriedly retrieved her checkbook and made a beeline for the nearest ATM at the bank. With evening drawing near and the clock ticking past late afternoon, time was of the essence. We inserted the checkbook into the ATM and anxiously awaited the update. The balance displayed on the checkbook left us both speechless. Despite the consistent deposits of $1,300 each month, there were clear signs of frequent withdrawals. Aaron's complexion paled as she whispered softly, "Why?" Concerned by her visibly strained state, I escorted Aaron to a nearby coffee shop, where I resolved to delve deeper into the issue at hand. My primary focus was understanding how her checkbook was being managed. Aaron disclosed that she stored her checkbook and debit card in a locked drawer within her desk. However, the key to this drawer was stored elsewhere, making it accessible to anyone entering the apartment. The only individual with the potential to access her room in her absence was her boyfriend, Ian, who possessed the spare key. Furthermore, the PIN associated with her debit card was the same as the one she commonly used for her other cards. It became evident that someone had likely observed her during a money withdrawal. I must admit, I was careless when setting up the account. "I'm sorry, honey. Mom should have been more careful," I confessed. "I never anticipated someone else would access the money." "It's not your fault, Mom. I should have been more vigilant in managing it," Aaron responded. "Well, we both share responsibility," I interjected, "but the person at fault here is the one who spent money without permission." Yeah, you're right, Aaron replied, her tone lacking its usual vigor. Understandably so, she had been betrayed by the person she likely trusted the most. Witnessing my daughter so crestfallen tugged at my heartstrings. I'll handle this, I declared unexpectedly. What? You may want to downplay this, but it's a serious offense. We need to gather evidence and report it to the police. The police? Aaron's voice quivered, clearly unsettled. Yes, it's necessary, but don't worry. I'll handle everything. It's all to ensure your peace of mind during college, all right? I reassured her, and Aaron nodded reluctantly. A few days later, I sought the help of a private detective agency, the same one that assisted me when my husband was suspected of infidelity. I need you to investigate my daughter's boyfriend. His name is Ian Mack. He's a sophomore in economics at the same university as my daughter. We suspect he may have been misusing the money I've been sending to her, I explained, displaying a photo of Ian from Aaron's messages on my phone. They agreed to take on the case without hesitation, despite their steep fees. It was a necessary expense to resolve this matter for Aaron's sake. As we awaited the results of the investigation, Aaron chose to commute to college from my house due to her anxiety. The journey took over an hour each way, which proved challenging for Aaron, but she found solace in returning home each evening. One night, she prepared granola for dinner. Just like you said, I've become quite the cereal connoisseur, Aaron remarked with a confident wink. My heart ached at the realization that she must have been eating this meal almost daily. A month later, the investigation's findings arrived. There was undeniable evidence that Ian had been making unauthorized withdrawals from Aaron's account. According to the investigator, shortly after Ian and Aaron began dating, his lifestyle markedly improved, as attested by his friends. What shocked me even more was that Ian's transgressions didn't stop there. It turned out he was involved with several other women. I was handed a collection of photographs. Ian with his arm around different women, happily dining at restaurants, enjoying arcades, and strolling through hotel districts. In each image, a man with a distinctive beauty mark, a teardrop tattoo, was unmistakably Ian. It seems Ian hasn't just been using the money you've been sending your daughter to impress his friends. He's also been using it to maintain relationships with multiple girlfriends, the investigator grimly informed me. Thank you, I replied, bowing my head deeply. It was time to take action. I filed a complaint with the police and sent written explanations of Ian's actions to his parents, his university, and all of his girlfriends. Initially, Ian denied everything, but he eventually confessed when confronted by multiple girlfriends. Naturally, all of the girlfriends, including Aaron, severed ties with him. As a result of the police investigation, Ian was expelled from the university and sent back to his parents' home. Fortunately, his parents were reasonable and came to my house with a humble gift to apologize. For the time being, his parents have agreed to reimburse the stolen money. I'll make our stupid son repay this, even if it kills him, Ian's father vowed, his voice choked with emotion. According to what Aaron heard through the grapevine, Ian is now working multiple jobs to repay his parents. By the time this ordeal settled, spring had arrived. To mark the end of this unfortunate chapter, we decided to celebrate Aaron's spring break with our first trip to a hot spring resort in over a year. Aaron had managed to reclaim her life since then, her complexion and physique returning to a healthy state. As we soaked in the warm baths, indulged in delicious food from the inn, and relaxed in front of the TV, I felt like we were finally able to enjoy some peace after a long while. Just before drifting off, Aaron's voice came from beneath the covers. Hey, what's on your mind? Remember how you and Dad split because of his reckless spending and affairs, right? Aaron's words caught me off guard. My ex-husband, much like Ian, was someone who flaunted wealth to impress others, yet struggled to cover basic expenses due to his extravagant habits and moral lapses. I served my ex-husband with divorce papers, just as you did with Ian. It seems we have a pattern of choosing similar types of men, don't we? Aaron offered a rueful smile. Indeed, we'll have to be more cautious from now on, I replied, trying to sound upbeat despite feeling a bit uneasy. By the way, you seem happier lately. Did you meet someone special? No way, it's not a boyfriend, Aaron exclaimed teasingly. Could he possibly become one? Lately, I had been developing a friendship with the investigator assigned to our case, but I hadn't mentioned it to Aaron yet. Even so, was there a spark, or was it just the bond between a mother and daughter who've been through a lot together? Hang on, are you sure it's going to work out this time, Mom? Aaron teased with a playful chuckle. Well, it should, right? Unlike your father, he seems serious and dependable. But let's get serious here. If it's my turn after all this, Mom, it won't be a laughing matter, I replied, adopting a serious tone. Got it? I'll tread carefully, Aaron responded solemnly. But then, unable to contain our amusement, we exchanged a look and burst into laughter. My name is Emily, and at 43 years old, I find myself navigating life's twists and turns alone. 2 years ago, my husband John, who was my age, was taken by a sudden heart attack. His absence left a void that seemed insurmountable. We had hoped for children, but fate had different plans, leaving us in a silent ache of unfulfilled dreams. Guilt often washed over me, knowing John's deep longing for fatherhood. Yet in his wisdom, he reassured me, our happiness doesn't depend on children. It's in cherishing each other, just the two of us. We held on to those words tightly, crafting moments of joy amidst our shared sorrow. But life's capriciousness had another chapter in store for me. In a cruel twist, just as we found solace in each other's company, I found myself grappling with the stark loneliness of his absence. In this unforgiving reality, circumstances led me to reside alone under the same roof as my late husband's mother, a woman with whom I frequently found myself at odds. Our living arrangement became the result of John's parents' divorce, with his father now a presence in our shared dwelling, a two-family abode offering the only solace in an otherwise strained situation. Yet, as time passed, my mother-in-law's visits grew more frequent, perhaps driven by a longing for her departed son. I couldn't help but feel apprehensive. Her demeanor was often overbearing, punctuated by subtle jabs. What exactly do you mean by that? I would inquire, bracing for the inevitable sting of her words. It's because he ended up with someone like you that John's no longer with us. You bear some responsibility, she would assert, her accusations as sharp as ever. Her reproaches were nothing new, but each time they cut deeper. Are you seriously suggesting that I'm to blame? At challenge, grappling with the weight of her accusations. Perhaps he fell ill because you couldn't manage his diet properly. I suspect your cooking was too rich. His weight gain after marriage speaks volumes, my mother-in-law asserted, her words like barbs aimed directly at my heart. While it was true that John had put on weight since our wedding day, he always praised my cooking and savored each meal with genuine delight. His kindness knew no bounds. Even if the food had been supper, he'd have eaten it without complaint. If only you had been more vigilant about his health, this tragedy could have been avoided, she continued, her tone heavy with accusation. These words, delivered by my mother-in-law in the somber days before John's funeral 2 years ago, struck me like a thunderbolt. Blaming me for John's illness and passing was a cruel twist of fate, one that left me reeling with pain. Though I knew the accusations were unfounded, the constant repetition took a toll on my psyche, making an already difficult time merely unbearable. For my mother-in-law, Joe must have been the center of her universe. The abrupt and untimely loss of her beloved son must have been excruciating. I could empathize with her struggle to contain her emotions. However, her attacks on me intensified with each passing day, a development I had sadly anticipated. Because of you, my precious son is gone. Were you plotting to inherit his insurance money all along? She accused, her words cutting like daggers. How many times must I deny such baseless accusations? It's simply not true, I retorted, trying to maintain my composure. You deliberately avoided having children just to claim his insurance money, didn't you? You're a devious woman, she spat venomously. As a couple, we longed for children and pursued every avenue, including medical assistance. But despite our efforts, we were unable to conceive. The notion of profiting from insurance is ludicrous, I explained, my patience wearing thin. Do you honestly believe I would fall for such a charade? She scoffed, her disbelief palpable. Each day without John is a torment for me. I can't pretend to be anything other than what I am, I replied, my voice tinged with sorrow. Why do you utter such cruelty? It would have been better if you had never been part of our lives. Why did Joe have to endure this? Your words are unbearable. I can't bear the thought of never seeing my son again, she lamented, her anguish pouring out in waves. What would John think if he heard you now? Pointing fingers won't bring him back. Joe was a remarkable and hard-working son. His loss is incomprehensible. It would have been easier if you were here. There's a line you don't cross. Some things are better left unsaid. Oh, I'm just talking to myself. voicing thoughts that have been haunting me. It's nothing you need to concern yourself with. What's your ultimate point? Leave? And why should I leave? Your presence is suffocating. I won't demand it today, but please vacate this house at the earliest. Since John's passing, ownership rightfully belongs to me. After John's passing, you've probably got your eye on the insurance money and the house, haven't you? She accused, her tone heavy with suspicion. You're making wild assumptions. I wasn't even aware of any insurance payout until after he passed. I defended myself, feeling the weight of her distrust bearing down on me. Her discovery of the insurance payout seemed to fuel her suspicions, as if she believed I had orchestrated John's death to secure the house and money. No matter how hard I tried to reason with her, she remained steadfast in her mistrust. I felt like I was reaching my breaking point. Living under the same roof was becoming unbearable, each day more mentally draining than the last. The next day, the tension boiled over. You must be living the high life now. No need to worry about work with all that insurance money rolling in. Is that why you're here, to rub it in? She sneered, her words laced with bitterness. It's not fair to twist my words like that. I can't take these constant jabs. I understand you're grieving for John, but it's not right to lash out at me. I miss him just as much and feel the ache of his absence every day, I replied, trying to maintain my composure amidst the storm of accusations. Seriously, spare me the act. You've got it made with the house and money, don't you? Playing the devoted wife role, I see, she sneered, her tone dripping with sarcasm. I won't entertain such accusations. We face our own struggles, particularly with not having children, but I loved John deeply and envisioned a future filled with cherished moments together, I countered, trying to hold onto my dignity amidst her onslaught. It's astounding how you can speak so freely with everything falling into place for you. Must be nice having life handed to you on a silver platter, she retorted, her words cutting deep. That's a heartless thing to say. If I could trade the money and the house just to have John back, I'd do it without a second thought, I confess, my voice tinged with sorrow. Ah, so you're implying you don't need the insurance money then? She pressed, a hint of skepticism in her tone. Why would you even suggest such a thing? Just because I don't need it doesn't mean I'll refuse it. This money represents John's last gesture of love and concern for my future without him. I intend to honor that sentiment, I replied firmly, determined not to let her diminish the significance of John's final gift to me. You have no shame, she spat, her disdain evident in her tone. Feeling the strain of our cohabitation weighing heavily upon us both, I summoned the courage to broach a topic that had been weighing on my mind. Can we put an end to this arrangement? I proposed, hoping for a resolution to our ongoing conflict. What do you mean? She inquired, her tone wary. We argue every day, and it's taking a toll on both of us. I believe it's in our best interest to part ways, I explained, bracing myself for her response. That sounds like the most sensible option. Please make arrangements to vacate the premises soon, she replied, her words tinged with finality. It's you who should be leaving. This house belongs to me, I countered, feeling a surge of indignation. I can't believe you're trying to evict me. You're even more heartless than I thought. The house is too large for me alone. I'm contemplating selling it and settling elsewhere. Besides, properties in this area fetch a good price, I declared, determined to assert my own interests in the face of her hostility. Seems like every conversation with you circles back to money. How much is enough for you? If you're considering selling, why not just hand the house over to me? It'll be too much for you to manage alone, and the expenses, like property taxes, could become overwhelming. I could help you find a more suitable living situation, like an apartment. Are you suggesting I pay rent to stay in my own home? If selling is your plan, then consider handing it over to me. Renting an apartment would likely be more economical than maintaining this entire house. I can't commit to monthly rent payments, but I'm willing to contribute towards it. If that's the arrangement, so be it. I'm relieved to finally break free from living under the same roof with you. I always feared it would come to this. Just promise me you'll provide financial support. Agreed. Let's start the search for an apartment soon. So, we made the decision to go our separate ways. Despite our complicated relationship, my mother-in-law is the mother of my late husband John. I feel a duty to support her, especially considering her financial struggles. With this in mind, I began the search for a suitable apartment for her. I feel like I've let you down. The diagnosis was a cerebral hemorrhage, but thankfully, it wasn't life-threatening. I spent 2 months in the hospital, including my recovery time. Throughout my stay, my mother-in-law never once came to visit. It was my parents and sister who took turns caring for me. Their unwavering support allowed me to regain almost normalcy in my daily life with only minor lingering symptoms. And before I knew it, my 2-month hospital stay had passed and the day of my discharge had arrived. I had initially planned to temporarily stay at my parents' place, but upon returning home to gather my belongings, I was greeted by a startling sight. "What? Where's the house? What happened?" I exclaimed, unable to comprehend what I was seeing. My mother-in-law appeared as though she had been expecting me. "Congratulations on being discharged. I didn't expect you to look so well. It seems there are minimal lingering effects and I can resume my usual routine. I'm relieved to hear that you're doing better. But what happened to the house while I was in the hospital?" I inquired, my mind reeling with questions. "Well, you see, I sold it for around $150,000, she replied matter-of-factly. "What do you mean you sold it without consulting me?" I demanded, incredulous. "I had a friend who was eager to live in this area. Her husband works nearby, and they needed a place urgently, so I went ahead and sold it," she explained casually. "Selling it without even informing me is completely unacceptable," I protested, feeling a surge of anger. "It's not that big of a deal. I received an offer right after you were hospitalized. I figured even if you recovered, you might struggle to live independently and could end up in a care facility, so I made the decision on my own." "Don't be upset," she said, trying to justify her actions. "I can't believe this. Thanks to me finding a buyer, we got $150,000 from selling the house," she added, as though it were a positive outcome. "I can't believe it. While I was in the hospital, my mother-in-law sold the house without consulting me. Apparently, their acquaintance had always coveted the land surrounding my house, and my mother-in-law took it upon herself to arrange a private sale," I recounted, feeling a mix of shock and betrayal. "Are you seriously considering selling someone's house without their consent and pocketing the proceeds?" I questioned, appalled by her audacity. "But the house was originally in John's name, wasn't it?" she countered, attempting to justify her actions. "While that may be true, I fail to see how that concerns you," I replied, growing increasingly frustrated. "Anything that belonged to my son John is rightfully mine," she asserted, her tone unyielding. "You seem to conveniently interpret things in your favor, but that's not how ownership works," I retorted, feeling exasperated. "What exactly are you implying?" she challenged. "When John passed away, the title of the house transferred to my name," I explained, hoping to clarify the situation. "And what's your point?" she asked, seemingly unfazed. "Selling a house without the owner's consent is bordering on criminal behavior," I stated firmly, unable to hide my disbelief. "Please refrain from calling me a criminal," she snapped defensively. "Who would have thought you'd consider life as usual after hearing about the cerebral hemorrhage? That doesn't give you the right to sell it," I argued, struggling to contain my frustration. "Why the hostile expression? Do you honestly believe you'd win in court? How about we split it 50-50? That way, we each get $75,000, she suggested nonchalantly. "It's not about the money," I snapped, feeling my anger rising. "Then why are you so upset?" "While I was hospitalized, she single-handedly sold her house and used the proceeds to purchase a condo for herself. Strangely enough, there was a condo neighboring our old house for sale at around $75,000, and she's currently residing there. To top it off, she relocated my belongings to her new place. It seems that during those 2 months of my hospitalization, she doubted the severity of my condition and took it upon herself to make significant decisions. It was time to confront the self-centered woman with the truth. "The house is no longer in my name," I revealed, my voice tinged with resignation. "What do you mean?" I demanded, struggling to comprehend her actions. "I started the process of selling the house while I was in the hospital," she confessed. "And what of it?" I pressed, my frustration mounting. "Due to its prime location, the sale was swiftly arranged. I was meant to handle the paperwork post-discharge, but it's already been finalized, so there's no turning back," she explained matter-of-factly. "You must cancel it immediately," I insisted, feeling the surge of urgency. "It's my property, so I see no reason to cancel," she countered, her tone firm. "You need to explain the situation to your acquaintance and return the $150,000. I urged, hoping she would see reason. "What are you suggesting?" "I've already purchased a condo," she revealed, her response leaving me speechless. So you're only willing to return half of it? I asked, feeling a mix of frustration and disbelief. Then you'll need to sell the apartment you're currently residing in to repay the remaining sum, won't you? I pressed, determined to find a solution. My clients are also considering demolishing the house, so it's convenient for them. I need to proceed with the necessary procedures, so please arrange for the refund promptly, she insisted, her tone resolute. Wait a minute. We're not finished discussing this, I interjected, feeling a sense of urgency. I'm considering returning to my parents' home, so I'd appreciate it if you could arrange to have my belongings sent there, I requested, hoping for some semblance of cooperation. Wait, I have a feeling today will be the last time we see each other. Please take care, she said, her words tinged with finality, leaving me with a sense of resignation. After that incident, I severed all ties with her. Later, I heard she apologized to the acquaintance she had sold the house to without my consent and reimbursed them. The total expenses, including demolition and inconvenience fees, amounted to roughly $170,000. Additionally, despite selling her apartment, its value had decreased since her purchase, leaving her with substantial debt. On the other hand, thanks to her actions, I saved on demolition costs and made a significant profit from selling my house. A new home was constructed on the land where John and I had once lived. Seeing the new house brought back memories of the happy times we shared, evoking both nostalgia and sadness. Despite my reservations, I decided to visit the site. To my surprise, someone I never wished to see again appeared. Well, it's been some time, hasn't it? She greeted me. Why are you here, mother-in-law? I asked, taken aback by her unexpected presence. I'm heading to work, she replied casually. You're going to work now? I questioned, surprised by her response. Yes, she affirmed. So you've started working? I inquired, puzzled by this newfound revelation. I'm drowning in debt because of you, I accused. How can you say that? I'm not responsible for your financial troubles, she retorted defensively. What happened to the assistance you promised with my apartment? I pressed. Our relationship has ended, so any previous agreements are null and void, she replied coldly. John would be devastated by all of this. I would tell him the same, I stated, my voice tinged with sadness. What do you mean? She inquired, her tone softening slightly. John always prioritized me and treated me with kindness. He was considerate, wasn't he? I reminisced. What's your point? She asked, sensing where the conversation was heading. You used to blame me every day, saying that John's death was my fault. I reminded her. And it's the truth. How do you think John would feel if he knew? She fired back. Mother-in-law, if it weren't for John, you would be in a much worse situation. I pointed out. Are you still going to insist on that? Will it change anything? She challenged, her tone bitter with resentment. I have no interest in being lectured by you. With all the money you now have, you should take on some of the debt burden. After all, we're still family, aren't we? She retorted, her tone tinged with bitterness. I never truly cared for you, but I intended to support you because you're John's beloved mother, I confessed. Well, that's the least you can do, she replied, her voice laced with expectation. However, I can't overlook some of the hurtful things you've said and done since my stroke. I can't simply forget the pain caused by your words, I admitted, feeling the weight of unresolved grievances. That was months ago. It's time to let go of grudges, she insisted, brushing off my concerns. It's not easy for the person who was wounded by those words to simply move on, I countered, my frustration mounting. You're quite stubborn, aren't you? Call it what you want, she dismissed, showing no remorse. I'm no longer involved. By the way, shouldn't you be at work by now? I redirected the conversation, eager to end the confrontation. Ah, look at the time. Take care on your way, she responded, avoiding the topic. If it weren't for you, I'd be enjoying a peaceful retirement, I remarked bitterly. It sounds like you regret your decisions. Instead of blaming others, perhaps it's time to reflect on your own actions, she suggested, deflecting any responsibility. After expressing my thoughts to her, I walked away from the confrontation. I recounted. It's only been 2 years since John passed away. Thanks to the financial security he left behind, I've been able to build a stable life. His legacy means everything to me, and I'm determined to honor it wisely. I've invested in an apartment close to my parents' home where I now reside alone. Though I long for John's presence, I take solace in the belief that He watches over me from above. My aim is to lead a long, fulfilling life, cherishing the memories we shared and living for both of us. My ultimate dream is to one day reunite with Him in heaven, where we can relive our cherished moments together. My name is Tammy, a 39-year-old professional employed in the sales department of a trading company. From my college days, I've been drawn to leadership roles, adept at rallying people together. Presently, I oversee a team of subordinates, rivaling the seasoned male counterparts in sales achievements. I take immense pride in the unwavering support I receive from my female colleagues, bolstering my role as a dependable manager. Yet, returning home to my apartment after a taxing day, I find no one awaiting my arrival. Having parted ways with my husband of 17 years and chosen to live separately from my 15-year-old daughter, I now dwell in a freshly rented apartment, surrounded by yet-to-be unpacked boxes. Despite the chaos, I harbor no regrets. This marks the commencement of a fresh chapter in my life. Let me delve into why I've embarked on this new journey. In the past, I resided in an apartment alongside my husband, Bob, and our daughter, Rebecca. Bob, a former college classmate turned spouse, and I tied the knot after reconnecting post-graduation and dating for 2 years. Initially employed in the sales department of a printing company, Bob transitioned into a self-employed web designer, operating from the comforts of our home. Our daughter, Rebecca, is currently navigating her way through 8th grade. The initial warning came in the form of a shift in Rebecca's demeanor. I asked for the moisturizing cream, Dad. Oh, my bad, sweetie. I completely forgot. I'll pick it up tomorrow after work, I promise. You're so useless. Can't you do anything right? Rebecca began casting colder glances my way, her words growing sharper with each passing day. Initially, I attributed it to her teenage years, dismissing it as a phase. Dad, want to catch a movie with me on your day off? Sure thing, kiddo. What's showing? Previously, Bob would always include me in such plans, but now it seemed he had no reservations about excluding me. Hey, can I have some money? We're going to the movies this weekend, remember? $300 should cover it. $300. Seems a bit steep. Can't you just use your debit card? Just get it done. I'll need cash for shopping and dining out too. Gradually, even Bob's treatment of me soared. Our interactions dwindled, leaving me feeling increasingly isolated. Then came that Sunday, a day etched in memory, when both Bob and Rebecca voiced their dissatisfaction with the breakfast I prepared. What's this? I've told you I want my eggs over easy. Get it right. And this soup is terrible. I've mentioned my dislike for mushrooms countless times, but you still include them. Can't you say something to her, Bob? Why should I? You can't even follow simple instructions. You're the adult here. The chill in their words left me unsettled. Something wasn't right. I needed answers, but by the time I realized it, it was too late. One week, upon discovering Bob's intention to venture out, I resolved to discreetly trail him. Bob's typical routine revolved around his home-based work. There were no scheduled appointments at the barber or the doctor. So why this sudden outing? Suspicion gnawed at me. Regrettably, my suspicions were confirmed. In the cafe awaited a young woman, a woman in her 20s, possessing a striking physique. As they departed the establishment, arm in arm, my head spun, rendering me unable to pursue them. The dreaded day I had long feared had arrived. My apprehension stemmed from a lack of confidence in my own appearance. I always harbored the fear that Bob might stray due to my perceived shortcomings in looks. While Bob exuded undeniable handsomeness, I often questioned why he had chosen me. Subsequently, I enlisted the services of a private investigator to delve into Bob's relationship with the woman. Your husband's paramour is a 26-year-old named Sofia Garcia, employed at a cosmetic surgery clinic. Among the photographic evidence presented by the detective, some were too explicit for me to bear directly. They depicted open displays of affection, hotel entrances, and disturbingly, there were images featuring a certain third party. And here's another. This one shows the three of them, including Rebecca. What could this possibly mean? So, it seems your daughter is involved as well. It appears that your husband's relationship with Sophia has the approval of Rebecca. I was speechless. A profound sense of isolation and abandonment washed over me. What had I done to deserve this? Suppressing the urge to cry, I mustered the strength to request the detective to also record conversations between Bob and Rebecca. Several times each month, they would coax money from me for their movie outings and shopping sprees. I was convinced that amidst their casual conversations, there must be indisputable evidence. Days later, as I listened to the audio recording provided by the detective, I was rendered speechless. She's so annoying. Can't even do the simplest things right, then tries to act like she's your mom. Why don't you just leave her? Sophie has been waiting patiently, hasn't she? Speaking of which, Rebecca, I think it's too early to talk about divorce. That's ridiculous. Sophie has been waiting, hasn't she? I discussed it with Sophia. I can't stand being around that ugly woman. Same here, but she's the one bringing in more money. So, you understand, right? Is that a yes? I wasn't sure. Yeah, that's the plan. If I rush into a divorce, I'll lose access to that money. We need to proceed cautiously, withdraw as much as we can, then let Sophia move in. Exactly. I'll need to gauge if Sophia can handle that lifestyle, and if not, I'll have to persuade her. But I think she'll be fine. She's so accommodating. Beautiful women just have a different way about them, you know? Yeah, I get it. I regret it deeply. Marrying that unattractive woman was the biggest mistake of my life. That evening, beneath the scalding spray of the shower, tears streamed down my face. I wept until there were no more tears left to shed, and in that moment, I resolved to take action. Enough was enough. If that was their scheme, then so be it. I refused to be taken advantage of any longer. I vividly recall the arduous weeks that followed. Each day, I buried my emotions and forged ahead with the preparations for my liberation. Even on the day of Rebecca's middle school graduation, my heart remained numb to any profound sentiment. Oh dear, I can't seem to settle on a hairstyle. It's quite vexing. Whose genes sculpted this face? Truly, Rebecca bore an uncanny resemblance to me. Gazing into the mirror, I brushed off her usual snide remarks. Hey, I need some cash. Around $400 should cover it. What else would a kid need $400 for? Besides, it's your graduation today, right? Obviously, I'll be hanging out with friends afterwards and grabbing dinner with Dad. Reluctantly, I handed over the $400, silently declaring it the final time. Rebecca accepted the money without a hint of gratitude. Hey, I'm planning to get plastic surgery soon. Plastic surgery? So you're bidding farewell to this face that supposedly resembles mine. I can hardly wait. A complete makeover before high school kicks off. Okay. Ha, I'm surprised. I expected you to be more opposed to it. What a disappointment. Well, I won't interfere. It's your body, Rebecca. You get what I mean, right? It's only natural to consider plastic surgery with a face like this. It's your fault, she asserted. Later, I drove Bob and Rebecca to middle school. Just before reaching the school, Rebecca requested I stop the car. Dad and I will get off here. You can head home, you know. I don't want my friends to see you, right? Of course, I replied, heading back home. I had no inclination to attend the ceremony. Everything proceeded according to plan, a welcome relief. Upon returning to the apartment, I awaited the arrival of a truck and 3 men. We'll pack and move everything out. With the amount of stuff, it should take about 2 hours. Thank you. I appreciate your assistance. That day marked my relocation to a new apartment, leaving the divorce papers on the table of the old one. I had requested time off from work and spent it touring various domestic destinations, relishing the rare freedom. Though perhaps I could have savored it more without the persistent calls from Bob and Rebecca. A few days later, I returned to the new apartment, refreshed from my journey. After finally picking up one of Bob's incessant calls, he exclaimed, "You finally answered. Where are you? What are you up to?" "Just relaxing in my room, watching TV. Why the urgency? You sound flustered. Is everything all right?" "What do you mean? Is something wrong? What do you mean by your room? Explain yourself properly." "There's nothing." "What do you mean? You saw it, right? The divorce papers." "That's it. No further explanation needed, right?" "So you knew about About what?" "If you mean your affair, I knew. I have no intentions of backing down. I figured, with your income, you can't support Rebecca. Tough luck, I'm filing for divorce and seeking alimony too." "Who says I'm going to pay alimony? We should discuss this matter calmly." "Sure, you can bring Rebecca along or not. It doesn't matter to me." With no desire to continue the conversation, I abruptly ended the call, powered off my phone, and severed all contact. I chose the caf for our discussion, the very same one where I had first seen Bob meeting with Sophia. But this time, only Bob showed up. There was no sign of Rebecca. She must be recovering from her plastic surgery. Poor girl. "Who's that with you?" I inquired. "This is my attorney, Mr. Johnson," Bob replied. "You brought a lawyer? Well, did you bring the filled out divorce papers as I asked?" "As I've said, I won't fill out such a thing. I'll tell you as many times as it takes. I have no intention of breaking up. Do you just want the money?" "I do. Do you think we can continue our marriage for that reason?" "What? Who said I'm after your money? Who said it? You're making assumptions about people's feelings." I nodded at Mr. Johnson, who then took out his smartphone and calmly pressed play. What ensued was a conversation between Bob and Rebecca from that day. Bob's complexion turned ashen instantly. "It's quite an experience to hear your own derogatory remarks played back to you. I don't want to breathe the same air as that ugly woman. If I carelessly break up with her, I won't be able to use the money." Bob's voice echoed through the cafe. No matter how many times I hear those words, they pierce straight through my heart. Knowing that this is his true sentiment sends shivers down my spine. "A recording? What the hell do you think you're doing?" Bob exclaimed. "What am I doing? I think I should be the one asking that. Did you use the money?" "I want to clarify something before we proceed. You have been seeing Sophia, correct?" I asked, studying Bob's expression. "Yes, that's correct," Bob affirmed, nodding. "In that case," Mr. Johnson interjected, "if you have no intentions of divorcing, we will proceed with filing for divorce in family court. We will also discuss the division of assets. The court will examine the circumstances and ascertain the facts to determine whether the divorce is warranted." Mr. Johnson held up the smartphone. "The conversation you had with your daughter earlier is quite significant in this case. In my professional opinion, divorce seems highly likely." "Oh, I see. I came here today to discuss what happens next," I explained, pulling out various documents meticulously prepared for this occasion. "This chart outlines the money I've given you and when, and this document details the utility bill payments." "What? What's all this for?" Bob demanded, clearly taken aback. "And here's a record of withdrawals from our joint account," I continued, presenting another document. "Rebecca's surgery incurred significant expenses, didn't it? Eyelid surgery, eye shape correction, double eyelid surgery, nostril reduction, filtrum reduction, creating tear bags, cheek and nasal bone shaving. The total costs amounted to $40,000. There's only about $20,000 left in savings. We used to have $70,000. You've spent quite a sum, haven't you?" That was for Rebecca. I could replenish the savings. "Do you realize I was the one who primarily contributed to that money?" I could feel my anger rising. "I'm willing to divide what remains in the account for asset distribution. I won't make any claims about the cost of Rebecca's surgery. However, what I do expect you to compensate for is the emotional turmoil I've endured. Keep that in mind. And by the way, have you been in contact with that woman, Sophia?" "No, not really," Bob replied. "That's concerning. I had a private investigator look into her background. Turns out she has a criminal record. You need to watch your back." "A criminal record? What for?" Bob's alarm was palpable. "She was charged with fraud and arrested. It seems she was colluding with the director of another cosmetic surgery clinic." "What in the—" "She must have seen you and Rebecca as easy targets." "My sympathies, and Rebecca's surgery. I hope it went smoothly. If not, we might have to negotiate with the hospital or even consider legal action. We'll need to assess whether the clinic is willing to settle. In cases like this, many clinics refuse to admit fault and become obstinate," Mr. Johnson added, causing Bob's complexion to noticeably pale. "That's all for today. Send the divorce papers to Mr. Johnson. I will be providing my address." "Wait, please, just one more thing. Can you lend me some money?" Bob's plea was pitiful. "I can't believe I ever fell for a man like him." "Absolutely not," I stated firmly, leaving the cafe with Mr. Johnson, leaving Bob behind, visibly devastated. Rumors later circulated about Bob and Rebecca's downward spiral. Bob struggled to afford even a modest apartment on his salary alone. To support Rebecca, she had to take up odd jobs like newspaper delivery, and they downsized to a cheaper apartment, compromising their standard of living. Bob's web design projects weren't sufficient, and he resorted to day labor to make ends meet. It was truly pitiful, but Bob had to persevere. After all, he still owed me alimony. I decided to allow him to pay in installments. Paying the full $30,000 upfront would have been impossible for Bob, given his struggling business that barely covered his supplementary income. Taking out a loan was out of the question. I could have suggested borrowing from a loan shark, but I didn't want to subject him to that kind of pressure. A few days later, Rebecca called me. As expected, the surgery was a failure. It was far from what she had hoped for. Rebecca and I met at the cafe, having not seen each other in a long time. She still had bandages on part of her face. The surgery had left noticeable marks, and she would require further procedures to correct them. It was a dire situation. So, still no luck reaching that Sophia girl, huh? Yeah, you were spot on, Mom. She saw us as easy targets, Rebecca remarked, gazing out the window with a thoughtful expression. She appeared more mature to me than ever before. Well, I should get going now. Part-time job first and high school homework. My schedule's pretty packed, she explained. Good luck, I wished her. Thanks, Mom, and I'm really sorry for all the trouble I've caused, Rebecca apologized sincerely. No need to suddenly be so polite. I won't be giving you any more money, okay? I won't bring it up again. With a nod, Rebecca left the cafe, marking the beginning of where I am today. I have few regrets. I'm content with my current life. Rebecca is practically independent now, and I hold no lingering feelings for my ex-husband, who had little to offer besides his appearance. I saw him recently in town, covered in dirt, working in construction gear and a helmet. Did he always have such sorrowful eyes? He looked entirely different. I hardly recognized him. Making a living is challenging, and he deserved to face difficulties after squandering so much money. It's not all about looks. I truly believe that now. I'll continue to do my best just as I am. With the reset button pressed on my life, the future appears brighter than ever before. I've longed for children, but you're the reason we couldn't have them. My husband spat out, hurling those hurtful words at me after 20 years of marriage. In that moment, I realized I couldn't continue with him. His callousness cut deep and his mind was elsewhere, dreaming of a new life without me. It felt as if some divine eye had witnessed his cruelty. My name is Lisa, 45 years old, a secretary at a law firm. Our marriage, nearing 2 decades, had been modest and childless. Despite our shared desire for children, infertility plagued us, primarily my own struggles. I underwent treatments, exhausting myself physically, emotionally, and financially, only to face disappointment. When I turned 40, we conceded defeat. My husband's desire for children persisted, but I couldn't endure the pain and financial strain any longer. We decided to halt treatments and embrace a childless life, opting for luxury trips instead. Yet the pang of regret lingered, especially when confronted with images of children on TV or greeting cards. Even 5 years post-treatments, guilt and remorse gnawed at me. Then, a school reunion beckoned after a decade. My husband encouraged me to take a break, sensing it as a mini vacation. It felt like a temporary escape from the weight of our childless existence. I realized I had scarcely been out alone since our wedding day, my life consumed by infertility treatments. But a little indulgence now and then couldn't hurt, right? At the venue, catching up with old friends felt refreshing. Lisa, long time no see. You look great, slimmer than before, one friend remarked. Indeed, I had shed about 22 pounds over the past decade. Thanks, I replied with a smile. I envy you. Since marriage and kids, I've gained almost 33 pounds, she lamented. Her words, though innocent, stung a bit. Any kids for you? Another friend asked. No, we couldn't, I replied, feeling the weight of the question. Just the 2 of us. Oh, sorry for asking such an awkward question, she apologized. No worries. Let's just enjoy ourselves, I reassured, trying to maintain a lively atmosphere. As conversation flowed, a startling revelation emerged. My son was nearly caught in a marriage scam recently, one classmate shared. I was taken aback. A scam. Yes, they asked him for $20,000 for their wedding, but it fell through, she explained. What happened next? I inquired, intrigued. He couldn't afford it, so he came to us for advice. That's when we uncovered the scam. The woman vanished, she recounted. It's terrifying, I murmured, shaken by the story. There are some awful people out there, another friend chimed in. Really scary. A marriage scam, I mused, shocked that such deceit could occur so close to home. Thankfully, her son had moved on with a new girlfriend, and the parents seemed relieved. The reunion continued smoothly, eventually winding down. Instead of heading to the after party, I decided to head home, reflecting on the evening's unexpected revelations. I returned to my hotel, savoring a nightcap alone. It struck me I hadn't checked in with my husband. It was only 10 p.m. He should still be awake. Despite repeated calls, he didn't answer. Perhaps he already turned in. Well, I'd be back tomorrow, so it wasn't a pressing concern. Yet an uneasy feeling gnawed at me. Was it women's intuition? Something felt off. From then on, my husband started arriving home unusually late on weekdays, often inebriated. "Hey, I'm home," he slurred one night, collapsing onto the living room floor. "Are you okay?" I asked, concern creeping into my voice. "Shut up, I'm home. Show some respect," he retorted, his words clouded by alcohol. As I tidied up his discarded clothes, he muttered something about Alyssa. You know, if you were as young as Alyssa. Confusion gripped me. Who was Alyssa? What did he mean by his words? Before I could inquire further, he was already asleep. Could he be cheating on me? The unease I felt that day morphed into a creeping certainty. But no, my husband was a good man. It must be drunken nonsense. Yet doubts lingered, unsettling my thoughts. I tried to reassure myself, but my husband's erratic behavior gnawed at me. Weekends meant early departures and late returns, often accompanied by the stench of alcohol. It had become a pattern I could no longer ignore. "You're going out drinking almost every day lately. Are we okay?" I ventured one evening. "Mind your own business. It's my money," he snapped back, dismissive of my concern. "But we need to save for our future," I insisted. His response cut deep. "Well, I've spent quite a bit on treatments." "That's because you're defective." Even in his inebriated state, his words stung. I could have fathomed he'd speak to me that way. As time passed, his disparaging remarks grew more frequent. "Since you can't have kids, you should focus on showing affection to me," he'd say. With each selfish act, my love for him waned. Gone was the caring husband who once supported me through treatments. Would he ever return? After 20 years, I began questioning the essence of our marriage. But before I could confront him about it, he dropped a bombshell. "We need to talk," he said, his demeanor serious. I returned from work to find him on the sofa, his expression grave. "What's wrong? Why are you being so formal?" I asked, sensing something was amiss. "I want a divorce," he declared bluntly. The words hit me like a ton of bricks. "You're joking, right? Why would you say that all of a sudden?" I pleaded, hoping for reassurance. But the idea of divorce had never crossed his mind before. "Yes," he confirmed, leaving me stunned and bewildered. The revelation hit me like a tidal wave. Divorce? Had my husband been considering it all along? I confronted him, desperate for clarity. "Out of the blue, you want a divorce? What's going on?" I demanded, my emotions raw. "We've been together for 20 years, haven't we? Let's talk this through," I urged, hoping for understanding. But he met my plea with contempt. "You're clueless, aren't you?" he scoffed, his tone laced with bitterness. Confusion clouded my mind. "What do you mean? For 20 years I've wanted children, but because of you I've been denied that chance," he accused, his words cutting deep. His revelation blindsided me. "That's not fair." "We decided together to stop treatments," I countered, feeling the weight of sadness and frustration. "I was never okay with that. I've always wanted a child," he confessed, his voice heavy with regret. Tears threatened to spill as the reality sank in. "Well, if you sign the divorce papers, I won't have anything else to say," he declared proudly, pushing the papers toward me. But his next words struck like lightning. "I've already decided to remarry." "Remarry? With a 20-year-old? I gasped, disbelief coursing through me. "That's right. Alyssa," he confirmed, a smug satisfaction in his tone. Alyssa, the name echoed in my mind, the same name he had mentioned before. Woman's intuition, it seemed, was not to be underestimated. I felt a flicker of self-satisfaction, but I knew it wasn't the time for indulgence. Then my husband showed me a picture of his so-called adorable Alyssa. As I examined it closely, I struggled to contain my laughter. Surely, this had to be a joke. How could something like this be real? I prayed he didn't notice my odd reaction and swiftly composed myself. "So, you really want a child that badly?" I questioned, masking my incredulity. "Yes, because you can't give birth. There's nothing we can do about that, right? You'll agree to the divorce, won't you?" he pressed, oblivious to my internal turmoil. "I suppose there's no choice," I replied, feigning distress, though secretly his sheer idiocy made the decision easier. With each passing moment, the thought of divorcing him grew more appealing. It felt like divine intervention guiding me toward the right path. With a heavy heart, or so I pretended, I signed the divorce papers and left him behind. I couldn't help but feel a sense of anticipation. Surely, he would regret his actions soon enough. Time would tell. Fast forward a year after the divorce, and I encountered him on my way home from work. His appearance shocked me. "Lisa, please help me," he pleaded, his shabby appearance a stark contrast to the man I once knew. "Excuse me, who are you?" I asked, genuinely not recognizing him. "It's me, Lisa. I need your help," he insisted, desperation evident in his voice. I hesitated, taken aback by his transformation. "Long time no see," I finally managed, unsure of how to react. In that moment, I realized the tables had turned. It was now his turn to seek assistance, and I held all the cards. "Please introduce me to your company's lawyer," he implored, his request a humbling reminder of his downfall. I couldn't just agree to help out of the blue. It seemed my ex-husband was facing financial troubles. I had sensed it from his appearance, but I never imagined he would change so drastically within a year. "If it's your first consultation, it's free. But to hire them, you'll have to pay their fee," I explained, trying to navigate the situation. "I don't have that kind of money. Please help me," he pleaded, desperation evident in his voice. Perplexed by his sudden predicament, I decided to hear him out. We found ourselves in a nearby cafe, where he began to share his story. "Well, actually," he started, but before he could finish, I interjected. "Did that girl Alyssa run off?" I asked, a sudden realization dawning on me. "How did you know?" he responded, surprise evident in his voice. "Just as I suspected. When you showed me a picture of a girl named Alyssa, it clicked. She looked exactly like the one who killed a classmate's son at a reunion," I explained, recalling the warning given by the classmate about a woman named Sally, approximately 22 years old. "Her age and name are probably fake, of course. The swindler wouldn't use her real name," I added, connecting the dots. "Of course you knew about Alyssa, didn't you?" he questioned, realization settling in. "Well, I guess you could say I knew. But what happened?" I inquired, eager to unravel the full story. When I pressed my husband for an explanation, this was the story he offered. About a year ago, he met a woman named Alyssa at a nightclub. My husband, who had always harbored a desire for children, seemed to have shared his thoughts with her. It was during one of these conversations that Alyssa made an astonishing offer: she could bear a child for him. Their relationship blossomed from there. He started frequenting the club almost every weekday and spent weekends with Alyssa outside its confines. In the process, he depleted $10,000 from his savings, accumulated during his single days. Despite this, Alyssa never demanded lavish gifts or expensive outings. She was content just to share a drink with him at the club. She was different, he insisted. Not like the stereotypical club girls you often hear about. She didn't care about designer goods or jewelry. She was happy as long as I was there with her. He painted Alyssa as hardworking and sincere, emphasizing their agreement not to touch each other's savings from their single days. "I thought it was his money and he could use it as he pleased," I admitted, unaware of his extravagant spending. Then my husband revealed the twist in the tale. Alyssa's true colors had emerged. "I want to get married, but I had debts totaling about $20,000. Then my husband promised to take on Alyssa's debt and transferred the money to her," I recounted, my voice heavy with regret. "They moved in together right after our divorce, but Alyssa continued her nighttime work and rarely came home. Eventually, she quit her job at the club and disappeared, taking all the money with her. How could he be so foolish?" I lamented, feeling a sense of despair at having been married to such a man for 20 years. "Did you make a promissory note?" I inquired, hoping for some semblance of responsibility. "A what?" My husband looked puzzled. "You lent her money, didn't you?" "Didn't you get a note?" I pressed, frustration creeping into my tone. "We were going to be a couple, so I didn't do such a thing," he admitted. "So, you basically gave her the money, is that it?" I asked incredulously. "In this case, it seems like you donated $20,000 to Alyssa out of goodwill," I concluded, my disappointment palpable. "This woman must be a pro," I mused, realizing the extent of her deception. In the case of donations, if the amount exceeds $11,000 in a year, gift tax is imposed. Depending on the case, the receiver might be taxed. So, Alyssa just took $20,000 in cash and vanished, splitting the money into two parts across 2 different years to avoid taxes. The reason my husband thought she was a good girl who never asked for material gifts was because she knew the law well. So, what should I do? I asked, feeling overwhelmed. I don't know. Maybe consult a lawyer. It'll cost you, though, he replied, his shoulders slumping in defeat. All my savings from my single days are gone, and the woman I loved ran away from me. I can't go back on my word to the company about remarrying after boasting about getting a younger wife. Isn't that his own doing? I thought, feeling the weight of my husband's pitiful situation. Lisa, it's my fault. Please come back to me, he pleaded. I realized after you were gone, you were the only one who cared about me. I don't need kids anymore. I'll let you do as you like. You must have been lonely too, right? But his misunderstanding persisted. That matter had ended half a year ago in my mind, so I confronted him with reality. You know, it's been a year. What's with this sudden change of heart? Isn't it a little too late now? Lisa, are you going to abandon me? Well, it was you who pushed for our divorce in the first place, remember? I reminded him. You're the only one I can rely on. My ex-husband looked utterly exhausted, and I decided to show him a little mercy. All right then, shall I call up a lawyer friend of mine? Lisa, thank you. I knew I could count on you, he said, tears welling up in his eyes. Mr. Johnson, the lawyer for my company, arrived at the coffee shop. John, over here, I called out, and my ex-husband seemed somewhat perplexed by our overly familiar demeanor. You see, we've been dating for the past 6 months now, I explained. What was it you needed advice on? As I finished speaking, my ex-husband looked as if he was in a daze. No, well, I think that'll be it for today, he muttered, suddenly snapping back to reality and hurriedly leaving the coffee shop. In the end, he couldn't afford to hire a lawyer and resigned himself to his fate. Rumor had it that his company was abuzz with talk of his unfortunate situation, left by his soon-to-be wife and ignored by his ex-wife. As Mr. Johnson and I spoke later, I confessed the truth about the charade. I'm sorry for involving you in all this, I apologized. No worries, Lisa. I'm glad I could be of help, he reassured me. By the way, do you have any plans after this? Caught off guard by the unexpected turn of events, I was a little flustered, but a fresh start in my mid-40s didn't seem like such a bad beginning. Yes, I'd love to, I agreed, certain that a fun-filled future was awaiting me. I couldn't shake off this feeling of excitement. Waking up to the presence of an ignoramus in the morning was akin to inhaling poison that would linger throughout my workday. Each sunrise brought with it the burden of enduring the condescension of an elite chief, a product of some lofty institution of higher learning. On a particular day, my tolerance reached its breaking point. Perhaps you should escalate your grievances to our superiors, she taunted. After all, I belong to the cream of society. Nobody will heed the complaints of a dropout like you. Her smugness was palpable, but a single encounter with the passing company president swiftly altered her demeanor. Good day, I'm Daniel Smith, he introduced himself. I landed a sales position at this company's branch straight out of high school. My father's motorcycle accident left him incapacitated, rendering him unable to provide for our family. So I opted to forgo college and joined the workforce to support them, thanks to a referral from my father. The camaraderie among the employees at this company made each workday a delight. My boss is kind, and my coworkers are a breeze to work with, so work-related stress rarely crosses my mind. Yet today, I can't shake off this feeling of melancholy. Smith, isn't your meeting today with the head office? A colleague inquired. Yeah, it is. Seriously. That means they'll be here, right? I should have taken the day off. You don't interact with them directly, so just keep it to yourself. I'm already feeling down this morning. Before my colleague could continue, they abruptly changed the topic. Why was nobody at the entrance to greet me? I was expected, and this is how they welcome me, they grumbled. Forget it, let's just get to work, they muttered, then hurried away. Remember that backstabber? A disgruntled voice, now left with me, seethed. This place is full of ingrates. It's infuriating that I have to bend over backward just to communicate with them. I sincerely apologize. I didn't anticipate your early arrival. She's Manager Jones, frequently commuting from headquarters for meetings and such. With a degree from a prestigious university, she was recruited as a seasoned executive candidate. Unfortunately, her demeanor often veered into arrogance, belittling employees at the subsidiaries. They're all just typical uneducated incompetents, she'd sneer, making me look like a fool. Let's just get this over with. Could you kindly wait a bit longer for another key person to join us? They're en route. What? You expect me to wait? My role is to hit the ground running upon arrival from headquarters. This incompetence is beyond belief. I deeply apologize. You're here 20 minutes ahead of schedule, yet you're being unreasonable. I yearned to retort, but the person on the other end was from the head office, an elite recognized by headquarters. I hesitated, unsure of the repercussions if I dared to challenge her authority. We grumble amongst ourselves at the subsidiary, but when it comes down to it, we never confront them, always enduring silently. As I carried on with my usual routine, driving to work one morning, I noticed an elderly lady in distress crouched in the middle of the road. It was clearly an emergency, but those around me either avoided involvement or didn't know how to react, feigning ignorance as they passed her by. "Are you all right, ma'am?" I rushed to her side, but she couldn't respond. Her breathing was labored, and she struggled to speak. "I'm calling an ambulance right away," I announced, swiftly dialing 911. Once the ambulance arrived, we all accompanied the elderly lady to the hospital. "It's all right for you to head home," the nurse reassured us. "We'll take care of her until her family arrives." Having already informed the company of my tardiness and concern for the grandmother's well-being, I opted to stay until her family showed up. Thankfully, her condition wasn't critical, and she was discharged after a few days. We breathed a collective sigh of relief. Then, a few weeks later, out of the blue, I received a transfer order to the headquarters branch office, a directive straight from the president. Contemplating the move, a colleague offered their perspective. "It's a testament to your hard work being recognized. Embrace it and give it your all." Encouraged by their words, I resolved to accept the transfer. My first day at headquarters proved to be quite the whirlwind. Deciding to greet each department individually, I encountered the chief in the corridor and hastened to offer my greetings, but she caught sight of me and shot me a disdainful glance. "What brings you here? Aren't you a bit out of your element?" "Good morning, Chief. I've been reassigned here." "Oh, you're being relocated. What on earth are they thinking?" Disregarding my greeting, the chief launched into a tirade. "Starting my day by sharing airspace with an uneducated imbecile is a surefire way to ruin my entire workday. I apologize if I've inconvenienced you, Chief. Please spare me the pleasantries. Just steer clear of me. I'm busy. Don't get in my way." Clearly in a foul mood, the chief dismissed me with a wave of her hand, as if shooing away bothersome insects. It was evident that any further attempt at conversation would be futile, so I resigned myself to returning to my duties. As I returned to the floor where the chief was, I overheard her berating her subordinate. "You're incompetent. How can you mess up something so simple? Even a new recruit could handle this." "I apologize, colleague." The employee, visibly distraught over her mistake, clenched her fists, lowered her head, and endured the scolding. "If this is how it's going to be, I'd rather have someone else working for me than you. You're no longer of any use to me. Clear out your desk and get out of my sight." With those cutting words, she turned to face me, our eyes meeting. Already discontented, her expression soared further as she glared at me. "Didn't I tell you to stay away from me this morning? Please, Chief, hear me out. I have something to discuss with you today." "Enough. Everyone here is arrogant. I don't have time for incompetent fools like you." With those words, the chief stormed out of the room, slamming the door with all her might. Concerned, I approached the employee who had just faced the chief's wrath, wincing at the resounding crash of the door. "Is this typical of the chief's behavior?" I inquired. According to the employee, it wasn't just typical, it was a daily occurrence. "She's always disrespecting me," he lamented. Worried that the chief might overhear, he hushed me, cautioning, "Shh, she might hear you." Aware of the potential consequences if the chief caught wind of his complaints, I did my best to soothe his frustration. "I've endured this for too long," he confided, shuffling to his desk and retrieving a white envelope from a drawer. "Please don't tell me that's a resignation letter," I implored. "Unfortunately, that's exactly what it was," he confirmed, something he'd been contemplating for some time. "At my previous workplace, every day was serene and fulfilling. But ever since the chief arrived, it's turned into a nightmare," he lamented, tracing the surface of his desk with a heavy sigh. The clutter of documents and notes bespoke his dedication to his job, despite the upheaval. "I understand your frustration. It's disheartening to see your hard work undermined by just one person, the chief. I sympathize. You've poured your heart into this job, longer than she's been here, and you've excelled. But His frustration hung palpably in the air, with no outlet in sight. The chief might say otherwise, but there are surely colleagues who trust and rely on you. Stay a bit longer for their sake. I'll help shoulder the burden. You're not the one who should walk away, I encouraged. What do you mean? He queried, his curiosity piqued as I made my way to confront the chief, leaving him pondering behind. We can't allow any more employees to be mistreated like him. That's why I'm here, I declared, trailing after the chief until I found her in the break room, sipping tea. Mind if I join you? I inquired. The chief glanced up, her expression pained. You're still here. You're as persistent as a fly. I'm just trying to take a break. Please give me some space, she sighed wearily, likely drained from the recent confrontation. Summoning my courage, I addressed her firmly. Chief, I'll be conducting a thorough investigation into your treatment of our employees. Depending on the findings, appropriate actions will be taken. My direct statement caught the chief off guard. What are you implying? Are you trying to play the hero to shield incompetence? No, that's not my intention. Why don't you go run to your superiors with this? I'm an elite, you know. I have the backing of those above. Nobody will pay heed to a dropout like you from the subsidiary, she retorted dismissively, waving her hand as if to brush off the matter. Suddenly, a man emerged from the other side. Smith, there you are. How's everything going? It was the president. I'm doing my best, thanks to your support. Ah, hello, Mr. President. What a pleasant surprise to see you here. What happened to the grumpy chief from earlier? She's putting on a facade of excellence for those higher up the chain. I'm glad to hear you're thriving. Have you connected with the new branch manager? Huh? What new branch manager? The chief looked puzzled, her gaze unfocused. He's standing right in front of you. Hadn't you been briefed? The president chuckled. This inept employee from a subsidiary company. You're quite the comedian, boss, the chief scoffed, joining in the laughter. The president, however, regarded her with suspicion. What are you talking about? Are you suggesting I'm joking? Understand this. He's now the brand manager of this branch office. It's impolite to label him incompetent, the president admonished. What on earth? The chief shot me a scowl. You didn't bother to inform me earlier, did you? I've already informed the rest of the department. Oh dear, such a rude and ill-informed individual. The chief's face flushed with anger, and she looked on the verge of collapse. Observing the situation with reluctance, the president finally spoke up. Let me shed some light on this remarkable opportunity. This company belonged to his father. Due to a car accident injury, his father couldn't manage it, so I took over. Is he the former president's son? The chief inquired. That's correct. I've been urging him to relocate to headquarters, but he's quite adamant about staying put, the president explained. I apologize. I have a fondness for that place, and I found it satisfying, I replied. What prompted your unexpected arrival here? Why didn't you just continue at the subsidiary? The chief interjected, momentarily forgetting the president's presence as she directed her query at me. The president, accustomed to seeing the chief in a more composed state, was visibly taken aback, his eyes widening in surprise. I made a heartfelt plea to him. He's my mother's savior, her benefactor, I clarified. What about the president's mother? The chief pressed further. Yes, the elderly lady I rescued a few weeks ago happened to be the president's mother. When he arrived at the hospital entrance and found me waiting for her family, I was surprised. I later learned that he was the one who had immediately come to her aid, calling for an ambulance while others ignored her. I felt he deserved better than being relegated to a subsidiary. So, you personally appointed him as branch manager, the president confirmed. That's correct, he nodded. I had my doubts about my qualifications when I was first appointed as branch manager, I admitted. Coming from a subsidiary, it was a sudden shift to leading at the head office. But after hearing from the president and receiving a call from my father urging me to support the company he had built, I made up my mind. That's precisely why I've appointed him as branch manager. Moving forward, I expect you to show him the respect he deserves and heed his directives, the president admonished the chief sternly before exiting the room. That's the explanation, chief, I reiterated as I faced her once more. You've been mistreating not only your subordinates but also those under your direct supervision. I understand the frustration and pain of being belittled simply because of lacking formal education. No. The chief collapsed into her chair, tears streaming down her face as her pride took a severe blow. It was no small shock for her to suddenly find herself outranked by someone she had long looked down upon for their perceived lack of education. She even threatened to have me dismissed. With that, my ordeal came to an end. The following day, a comprehensive investigation into the chief's conduct was conducted. Numerous employees and subordinates came forward with accounts of her egregious behavior. As a result, disciplinary action was taken. Upon receiving the news, the chief left the company without a word, her spirits seemingly drained. The chief appeared visibly distraught. Considering her high self-esteem, it was understandable. "By the way, are you certain you want me to replace the chief?" I inquired. "I have full confidence in you," the president affirmed. With the chief dismissed, he appointed the individual who had previously endured her wrath. This employee had a long tenure with the company and showed unwavering dedication to their work. Naturally, I had thoroughly vetted his past performance, knowing he had first-hand experience of the frustrations and mistreatment under former Chief Jones. I knew he wouldn't repeat the same mistakes and would prove to be a compassionate leader who understands his employees' feelings, I explained. As for myself, I endeavored to approach my role from the perspective of the employees, not solely as a branch manager. Drawing from my positive experiences with a subsidiary I had previously worked with, I conducted regular interviews with staff, seeking their input. I also organized training sessions for employees in leadership roles, striving to foster a more supportive environment. Through these efforts, the company's culture gradually improved, resembling the positive atmosphere of the subsidiary where I began my career. Will Smith, I apologize for what happened with Jones, but thanks to your efforts, this company is thriving, the president acknowledged. "Oh, I'm apprehensive," I admitted. At a later meeting, I found myself summoned to the president's office for a casual coffee chat. He wanted to discuss the recent developments in the workplace. I'm not getting any younger, eventually. I envision Will stepping into my role, the president shared. "With all respect, Mr. President, I don't see myself as presidential material," I responded. "Why not? Your father would have wanted the same," he countered. I aspire to remain aligned with the employees, working alongside them to support the company and engage with our customers. Once in the president's seat, that connection may become strained, I explained. The president frowned at my words before abruptly excusing himself. "You have a unique sense of humor. Most would leap at the opportunity," he remarked upon his departure. Am I considered eccentric? I wondered aloud. No, it's refreshing. It's exactly the kind of mindset we need in a Smith, he assured, giving my shoulder a firm tap. You have a meeting coming up, don't you? Get back to work. My name is Olivia, and I'm a 32-year-old housewife. My husband, Liam, is 34 and works an ordinary office job. We've been married for 8 years and have a precious daughter named Ava, who is 6 years old. Ava is incredibly adorable, and both Liam and I are completely smitten with her. I have an older sister, Emma, who is 3 years older than me. She recently turned 35 and went through a divorce due to a personality clash, becoming a single mother to her 4-year-old son, Noah. One day, we planned to go to the zoo with Emma and Noah. Unfortunately, I caught a cold at the wrong time. When I tried to cancel the outing, Liam kindly offered to take the day off from work, not wanting to disappoint the kids, even though it meant he and Emma would be alone together with the children. I didn't think anything of it. However, one day when I was walking through the shopping district after running errands, I happened to see Liam and Emma sitting together in a cafe. I wondered why they were together, but as it was almost time for Ava to come home from her after-school program, I headed home, still feeling uneasy. That night, when Liam came home, I asked him about it. He explained that it had started raining and they happened to meet, so they went to the cafe to wait for the rain to stop. He seemed calm and nonchalant, so I trusted him at the time. But after that day, Liam started coming home late more frequently. He also began asking for more money, claiming he was short on cash. On his days off, he went out more often, and whenever Emma visited our house, their interaction seemed more familiar than before. Suspicion began to creep into my mind, even though our relationship with Ava remained as strong as ever. Then an incident occurred that made me realize something was amiss. Emma came over as usual and asked if I could take care of Noah for about a week. A friend had invited her on a trip to Hawaii, and it was difficult to bring Noah along. Emma pleaded, saying she needed a break after being so busy. I understood how hard it was for her since the divorce, and though reluctant, I agreed to help. As Emma's trip approached, Liam told me he would be away for a while on a business trip, visiting multiple areas over several days. I thought it was a tough coincidence, but I was shocked when I learned his departure date. It was the same day as Emma's trip to Hawaii. Was this really a coincidence? Liam's increasing phone use and secretive behavior made me more suspicious. When Emma visited, their interaction seemed unusually close. On the day of Emma's departure, she arrived early in the morning with Noah. The moment I held Noah's hand and immediately noticed something was off. His hand was unusually hot and his body felt feverish when I lifted him. I didn't need a thermometer to know he had a high fever. "Emma, doesn't Noah have a fever?" I asked. Yes, he's been running a fever since yesterday. It hasn't gone down yet," she admitted. "What? We have to take him to the hospital right away. Surely your son's health should be more important than a trip," I insisted. But then Emma said something outrageous. "So I'm counting on you." "What? You're leaving your child here while he has a fever?" I was incredulous. "I have no choice, do I? I made the promise a long time ago. It's ridiculous to pay a cancellation fee," she replied. "That's not the point, is it? Isn't Noah the most important here?" I argued. "Of course he's important, but I'm not worried because you're here, Olivia. Take good care of him for me," Emma said. "Wait, Emma." Despite my attempts to stop her, Emma left. I couldn't believe it. Noah was suffering from a high fever, and she left him in my care. Noah seemed to be really struggling, probably because of the strain of moving while having a high fever. I quickly laid him down on the bed and placed a cold, wet towel on his forehead. While I was preparing an ice pillow in the freezer, Liam woke up. "Liam, it seems Noah has a fever," I said. "Really? Is that so?" he replied sleepily. "Emma is terrible. She's going on a trip, leaving Noah in this state," I fumed. "Well, she had planned it long ago, right? She probably can't cancel at this point," he reasoned. "You too, Liam. Poor Noah. If you feel that way, you should take good care of him," I said. "Liam, can't you do something about your business trip? If Noah has some contagious disease, he might pass it to Ava. I'll take care of Noah, so I want you to take care of Ava," I pleaded. As a mother who loves her daughter dearly, I reluctantly agreed. Work is important, but surely our daughter is even more important. However, my expectations were betrayed. "What? That's impossible. You should know that," I exclaimed. "If you're worried, just leave her at your parents' house," Liam suggested. "Even if you say that, my parents are busy with work and your parents' house is too far away to go now," I countered. "Then there's no choice," Liam replied. "Well, all we need to do is let Noah sleep. It'll be fine," he said casually. "Say that so casually. What do you want me to do then?" I retorted. It's time. I have to go. I'll be going then." Liam hurried off, leaving me behind. I quickly called my parents. They couldn't take a day off work on such short notice, but my mother promised to leave early and come pick up Ava as soon as possible, which gave me some relief. While waiting for my mother to arrive, I kept Ava confined to her room, feeling sorry for her. Meanwhile, Noah's condition seemed to be worsening. In addition to this fever, he started to cough in the early afternoon. When my mother arrived early from work, I immediately took Noah to the pediatrician. On the way to the hospital, my heart ached seeing Noah suffer even from the car ride. The doctor diagnosed it as a common cold and prescribed an antipyretic, advising me to monitor his condition closely. However, I was warned to call an ambulance without hesitation if his fever rose further or if he became dangerously delirious. "I'm sorry, Mom," I whispered to myself, overwhelmed with concern for Noah's well-being. "I suddenly had to ask you to take care of Ava. Don't worry about it. More importantly, I'm worried about Noah," my mother assured me over the phone. Noah was as dear to my parents as Ava. After finishing the call with my mother, I felt an urge to call my husband's company. I needed to know the location of his supposed business trip in case of emergencies. The response confirmed my worst fears. He was on paid leave. Looking up at the sky, a bad premonition began to feel real. I opened my husband's laptop, which I had never seen before, and examined his search history. The destination was Hawaii, and all arrangements, plane tickets and hotel reservations, had been made by him. I recognized the name of the hotel. It was where my sister had mentioned staying. My sister and husband in Hawaii at the same hotel at the same time. Such a coincidence was implausible, not even 1 in 10,000. The fact that my husband, who claimed to be on a business trip, was on paid leave in Hawaii was abnormal. Out of curiosity, I checked my sister's social media. There were no new posts, but her recent ones showed her often with someone. The clothing visible in the photos looked all too familiar. What turned my suspicion into certainty was a picture where the person with her wore a watch that I had given my husband, not expensive, but distinct in design. This person, clearly not my husband, appeared in multiple photos with her, wearing the same clothes and watch. The possibility of coincidence was virtually zero. Then I found the conclusive photo in an album labeled Window Shopping. My sister was reflected in a shop window, and at the edge of the photo, unmistakably, was my husband. My sister, elated, had likely posted the photo without realizing he was in the reflection. With trembling hands, I saved all the photos. There was no doubt now. My sister and husband were having an affair. They were together right now, and it felt like everything fell into place. The foundation I had built with my husband was crumbling all at once. I called them repeatedly, but each time an automated voice message played, it seemed they had turned off their phones. Noah's fever still hadn't subsided, and seeing his pained expression, anger began to well up inside me. Despite a young child suffering so much, despite my own tough situation, at this very moment, my sister and husband were likely laughing and enjoying their trip to Hawaii. Could there be a more cruel story than this? Shaking with anger, I tried to think about what to do next, but that would have to wait. First and foremost, I needed to wait for Noah to recover. Yet there was no sign of his fever decreasing. If anything, it seemed to be getting worse. I was shocked when I took his temperature minus 107 degrees. Children are susceptible to high fevers. Ava had once had a fever of 104 degrees, but never this high. Why wasn't the fever reducer working? Noah was completely exhausted, and any movement seemed to cause him pain. Desperate to suppress the panic threatening to overwhelm me, I was just considering calling an ambulance when my smartphone buzzed. "Mommy," Noah murmured weakly, his face contorted in pain, calling out for his mother. "I can't forgive them. I'll never forgive them," I vowed silently, my vision clouding with rage. Just as it seemed my anger would consume me, Noah's condition suddenly took a turn for the worse. A week had passed since then, and despite my sorrow, today was a clear day. I found myself staring blankly at the wide blue sky, tears streaming down my face. I had lost count of how many times I had cried, yet my tears showed no signs of drying up. Ava's hand trembled in mine, and as I lifted her up, I could see my parents, also in tears, comforting her. Other family members and friends gathered, all sharing in our grief. Everyone, without exception, was in tears. Suddenly, my smartphone vibrated. I set Ava down and glanced at the display. It was my sister's name. "Hello," I answered hesitantly. "Oh, Olivia, it's been a while. I just got back from Hawaii. I'm at the airport now, and I'm going to pick up Noah next. Thanks for looking after him." My sister's voice came through the line as if from another world. I uttered a phrase as if whispering, "Our dear has gone to heaven." A single tear, which I thought I had under control, spilled over. Unable to comprehend my words, my sister asked back in a bewildered voice over the phone, "Heaven? What are you talking about? That makes no sense." "So our loved one is in heaven while you were enjoying your trip to Hawaii," I said, struggling to contain my emotions. "I don't understand what you're saying," my sister replied, sounding confused. "You'll understand when you get here. The funeral is over, and we're now at the crematorium." "What? The crematorium?" My sister's voice was filled with shock and disbelief, and the phone call abruptly ended. "No, no." My sister rushed out of the taxi, desperation etched on her face. She called out his name and looked around frantically, but Noah wasn't there. "Where is he?" "He's not here." "Of course he isn't," I said softly, pointing in the direction of the crematorium. Though modern crematoriums don't emit smoke like the old ones, there was no mistaking the solemn reality. Someone was being cremated right now. "About Noah. The day you dropped him off, his fever suddenly spiked to 107 degrees Fahrenheit. 107 degrees? My sister's voice faltered. The antipyretic we got from the pediatrician didn't work, and his condition deteriorated rapidly. We called an ambulance in a panic, but no. I couldn't bring myself to finish the sentence. "We're in the middle of a funeral right now," I continued, spreading my arms towards the crematorium. "Hey, what's going on?" What happened to Noah? Why are you here? A man shouted, breaking the silence. It was my husband, shock and disbelief evident in his voice. It doesn't matter why I'm here. What about Noah? I retorted sharply. Of course it matters. My husband's voice was strained, filled with urgency and concern. With nothing left to lose, I faced my husband, ready to confront the truth. I shouted back, what kind of nerve do you two have to abandon your family and go on a fair trip? Noah was sick with a fever, and despite my plea for help, you ignored us and went on your trip. Are you out of your mind? What are you saying? I've known for a long time. When I contacted your company, they said you had taken paid leave. When I checked the computer, there was a reservation for a trip to Hawaii, staying on the same flight and in the same hotel as my sister. You think you can explain that away as a coincidence? At my intense accusation, my husband was left speechless. Olivia, tell me, is Noah? His voice broke. How can you ask that question now? Why do you think we're here? Why do you think we're wearing mourning clothes at the crematorium? Don't you understand? I demanded, my voice trembling with emotion. No. My sister's scream pierced the tense air, collapsing into tears. I looked down at her with cold eyes. You have no right to cry, Emma. You're the worst kind of person, abandoning your son to go on a trip with your sister's husband. I was so lonely all by myself. That's why. Emma's voice quivered. So you laid hands on my husband? I accused. What? I did nothing wrong. I'm not in the wrong, Emma insisted, unbelievably lashing out in anger. I didn't choose to have a child, nor did I choose to become a single mother. When my ex-husband and I divorced, I wanted him to take custody of Noah, but he refused. So I did my best to raise him on my own. But to think Noah would? No, Emma. The one comforting my crying sister was my husband. It seemed he had no intention of hiding their affair any longer. Don't be selfish. Our parents and I have helped as much as we can. Leaving the sick child alone to have an affair is no excuse. I lashed out at them. You don't even realize how despicable you are. You're the worst. Hey, Olivia, aren't you being too harsh on your sister? Emma is shocked because Noah has passed away, my husband interjected. Shut up. Don't you dare act superior. Just so you know, we're getting a divorce. I'll make you pay for everything you owe, so be prepared. What? What does that have to do with this? It has everything to do with this. I yelled back at him, my sister crying in the background. The situation had become a battlefield. Our parents approached us in the midst of the chaos. My sister tear-streaked, blamed them. Dad, Mom, why didn't you take proper care of Noah? Why did you let this happen? She cried out. Suddenly, a dry slapping sound echoed through the tension. It was our father who had slapped my sister's cheek. Don't be ridiculous. You abandoned your child and yet you blame others. You even went on a trip with your sister's husband. Shameless. I feel ashamed as a father for raising you like this, he condemned her. My sister cried even harder at our father's harsh words. I contemplated slapping my husband, but before I could act, a small boy's voice cut through the turmoil. Mom. My sister turned sharply. There he was. No. Noah, she exclaimed, moving towards him, but the man holding Noah quickly stepped back, out of her reach. Hey, what are you doing, Lucas? I demanded. The man holding Noah was my sister's ex-husband, the man who had divorced her due to their personal conflicts. That's what I should be saying. What are you doing, leaving Noah alone? It's none of your business. Noah is my son too, he argued fiercely. I followed the prevailing opinion that a mother is better because you insisted on not sharing custody, no matter how many times. I warned you, you wouldn't let me see him, and as I feared, it came to this. You have no right to be Noah's mother. Shut up. All you have to do is quietly pay child support. I'll pay whatever it takes for Noah's sake, but you didn't take care of him. You left him alone. You didn't even know how dangerous his condition was, and you were off on a pleasure trip. On that day when Noah's condition suddenly deteriorated, I panicked and called an ambulance. I called my parents and Lucas, Noah's father. While treatment was being given after arriving at the hospital, he was quite surprised when I told him my sister was on a pleasure trip with my husband. Afterwards, Noah, who was discharged from the hospital in good health, was recuperating at Lucas's parents' house. Wait, so Noah is safe, right? I asked my bewildered husband, staring at the crematorium. It's her grandmother, I explained. Our grandmother, who was bedridden due to her advanced age, has been under care at a nursing home. She passed away from old age the other day. Even though she was bedridden, she had a clear mind and doted on her great-grandchildren, Ava and Noah. When we occasionally visited her at the facility, her wrinkled face would crinkle even more. At the sudden farewell, I, my parents, and Ava were unable to cope and just wept. No, being just out of illness, didn't attend the funeral. But I called my sister to this crematorium after informing Lucas that Noah was fine, since his fever had completely gone down. You tricked me, my sister accused, staring daggers at us. We were the ones who wanted to accuse her. I didn't hear that Grandma had passed away either. My sister shouted. I called multiple times to tell you that Grandma had passed away, but your phone was turned off. Both of you were unreachable. Even though Grandma was kind to you, it's unacceptable to be late enough. Key, it's mocking me. No, let's go. You'd rather be with Mommy than this man, right, Lucas? I said firmly, trying to take no back from Lucas. It was Father scolding my sister who was confronting Lucas. Are you still thinking that you can keep No with you even after all this? Listen, what you did was on the verge of breaking the law. It's called parental neglect. You failed as a mother. Don't think that you can ever be by Noah's side again. Noah will be raised by Lucas. Dad, no way. We have even hired a lawyer and decided to fully cooperate with Lucas. You are no longer our daughter. Be prepared for us to cut ties, Mom. My sister's face turned pale at the disavowal from her parents. I stood imposingly in front of my sister and husband. My husband and I are getting a divorce. Why don't you two get along? You should be fine not seeing each of your children. After all, you left them behind to go on a trip overseas. Hearing this, my husband started yelling. Wait, Olivia. It was just a moment of weakness, just a fling with Emma. What's most important to me are you and Ava. Then my sister exploded. What did you say? A fling. You said you don't love Olivia anymore, that you only love me. Shut up. I love my daughter. Don't mess with me. My husband and sister resumed their quarrel. We left them arguing and departed with my grandmother's ashes. After that intense dispute, mediation ended peacefully since I had appointed a lawyer. Noah went to his father's place. I thought he would feel sad about being apart from his mother, but he was actually happy. It seemed my sister was completely non-functional as a mother. My husband and I also had our disagreements. He was stubborn, but after being scolded by both sets of parents, he deflated. The final blow came from our daughter. I don't need daddy, Ava declared. Though only 6, she seemed to mature early and understood her father's behavior in her own way. When Ava looked at my husband like he was an insect, I couldn't help but laugh. There was no greater punishment for my ex-husband, who had adored her daughter. He now has the right to see Ava, but whether she wants to see him is up to her. So the dramatic situation came to an end. Ava and I moved back to our parents' home, living peacefully. Our parents were thrilled to have Ava around. Next year, she would start first grade, and we were excited about her school preparation. I also planned to get a job at the same time she started school. Noah visited every now and then with Lucas. His face was unrecognizably bright compared to before, filled with smiles. Meanwhile, while we were living joyfully, it seemed my sister and ex-husband ended their relationship easily. Perhaps it truly was just a fling for my ex-husband. Perhaps he was shocked at being disliked by his daughter, so he easily discarded my sister. However, his affair with his wife's sister became known in his company, and he was deemed to have character problems. He was sent to the provinces, making it even harder for him to see Ava. He deserved it. As for my sister, it seemed she lived like a hollow shell for a while, frustrated by being abandoned by everything. Eventually, she disappeared. We filed a missing persons report, but I had a feeling my sister would never be found.